War of semiconductors. You might have heard something about semiconductors or not heard at all. Watch this video till the end to know two things. What exactly are semiconductors and why USA and China are fighting and playing politics for the semiconductors or chips. Why? First, before the invention of transistors, people used to use vacuum tubes in electronic devices. Now, back in 1874, the genius Carl Ferdinand gave birth to something amazing, and that is semiconductors. Now coming to the practical application, it was first used in the cat's whisker in 1904. In 1947, AT&T Bell Labs, world's first ever transistor, the point contact transistor, was born. The industry of semiconductors grew rapidly after the invention of transistors, which replaced vacuum tubes in electronic devices. But what exactly transistor is and how it is placed on the chip? For explaining this, I will brief about transistors, chips and silicon. Before that, knowledge is power. Let's take a deep in that and subscribe my channel. A. Transistors. Transistors are basically a small semiconductor miniature devices and act as electrical switches which can turn off or on the current and generate or enhance the electrical signal. Now these transistors in 1950s and 1960s, with the help of photolithographic process, started printing with a pattern of multiple transistors onto a silicon wafer. This silicon wafer acts as a foundation for the chip, just like a ground for the sport players to play. B. Chips. Chips, as we said, are silicon wafer or a ground where we have transistors, their interconnections, and third, N and P segments or components. Earlier, the number of transistors added were 4 to 6. However, currently it contains transistors in billions, such as our famous Apple's M1 Ultra, which has 114 billion transistors. After understanding the transistors and chips, the last thing we need to know is silicon, where basically silicon is an ideal semiconductor providing the right conductivity as it binds the atom very tightly and in a complex arrangements. Now why it is so much important? Because it replaced germanium by being cheaper, reduction in leakage current, and the most important reason, it is stable at high temperature. Now coming to the last and most important point. Why US and China are running behind chips? US and China are basically in a tech war of semiconductors. First, saying about USA, President Biden is pressuring Dutch government into not shipping chip making equipments to China. USA imposed restrictions on China's largest chip manufacturer, Semiconductor Manufacturing International Corporation, SMIC. China was also cut off from importing or getting the most advanced chips and acquiring the inputs to develop its own advanced semiconductors and supercomputers. As per CNBC News, the US government has introduced export controls, yet aiming to cut China off from advanced semiconductors. Further, in return to this, China in May 2023 banned Micron Technology, the largest memory chip maker in the United States, from key infrastructure projects. Why? The Chinese government said that Micron products pose a national security risk and failed a security review. We don't know what was the security review. Further, as per Taipei Times, the US ban on semiconductor technology will force Chinese chip users to step up the process of using the domestic products and replace the imported ones, which indirectly helps the Chinese government accelerate the import substitution policy. Before the ban, China would have taken 10 years to catch up and gain a footstep in this segment. But as they have no choice, they need to start test driving and using their domestic products. Unlike other countries which are dependent on different countries for chip making, such as design in one country, manufacture in one country, assembly in another country. But why all this fuss, fight, politics about the chips between US and China? Hear me out. As per Times of India, chips is important for global economy and AI. This tiny piece of silicon is used in multiple devices, such as from LED bulbs and washing machine to car and smartphones. It is also used in healthcare services. Now, as per the McKinsey's report published last year, globally, semiconductors are forecast to become $1 trillion industry by 2030. This number is greater than GDP of n number of countries. Now, China is already a global power with some characteristic of superpower. After getting the independent power of chips, no one in the world will be able to control China from becoming maximum, leading and superpower in the world. Now the rest is known by everyone about how will we be treated after that.